Welcome to Bartolomeo Meo Mugiwara fans. In the previous video I already pointed out that the next one would be about the Ds, and it is coming as the long delayed second part of one that I uploaded more than a year ago about the creation of the Grand Light by the Great Ancient Kingdom as a racetrack with goal in Lofte. That was going to serve as revenge or counterattack against the world government. And this might be the second part because we are going to talk about the participants in that racetrack, the Ds. And I already had the script finished when this last chapter came out, in which we have something that could be important, and that gives me a possible answer to something that I couldn't find any explanation about, and that we will deal with later. These are marked by having a D in their name, but that's not the only thing, right? We could even say that it is the least important about them, because there are some features that we are going to talk about that have nothing to do with the name and that we can identify. For instance, after Oden's flashback, many of us wonder if he was a D because we could identify those features in him. We will treat them and use them to identify other possible Ds that, like Trafalgar Law, might be hiding that letter in their name. Corazon explained that these are considered natural enemies of the gods, and that where he came from, children were told that if they misbehaved, a D would eat them, and as we already know, Corazon was a celestial dragon. This matches with the will of D being the inherited will of the ancient Great Kingdom to fight back against the world government. Only with this, we already have that there is a will that is inherited and that the D, which is also inherited with the name, simply matches this type of persons. And it is not that they have kept being famous since the Void Century, but that fame has been fed among the people after seeing that many of those who created problems for the world government had that letter in their name. It is no coincidence that they have always shown us comments saying that the Ds are dangerous or that there are problems wherever they are from the elder people, even from the Gorosei. A fame that, as it directly identified their purpose, could also be of help to them from those who had something against the world government. Robin saved Luffy's lives in Alabasta because he was a D. Corazon sacrificed himself for Law partly because of this, and Law wanted to ally with the Straw Hats for this reason too. If, as I point out from that video of more than a year ago, all this is part of a plan, the D should have been created by the Ancient Kingdom with the purpose of ensuring participants in the war that would defeat the world government and end the divinity of the descendants of the kings who were going to defeat them. But this was going to have to wait for the right conditions, and apparently that was not going to happen for another 800 years. They knew all this, and it is demonstrated when the group that arrived at Loftel with Goldie Roger returns with the information of what the Ds are and that the warriors who are going to participate in the Great War would appear in Wano. It also explains that Goldie Roger's action after that were to have a child with another D to participate in that war, signed directly by him, and to give himself up to be executed in a way that could encourage a larger audience to go to the sea and this way facilitate the advent creating the great era of piracy. Some might be surprised to have this in the Navy. There is a difference between the Navy and the world government, and Gar makes it clear when, even believing in the Navy, he hates the celestial dragons, and that is the reason why he refused to be an admiral. Something similar to Sol, who was in the Navy to do good, and when he found an injustice in Ohara, he revealed himself. But there are more things inherited apart from the will and the D in the name, and that is that there are a series of behaviors and special goal-oriented abilities that are supposed to them and that we will cover shortly. But first, I need to comment that what we are explaining seems to point to a creation. That is, there had to be a time when the Ancient Kingdom, as part of its plan to create the Grand Line, carve and distribute the poneglyphs, etc., also had to create the D somehow. At that time, they must have been with the Kosuke clan because we already know that they took care of the poneglyph parts. So, if we have already seen that the Kosuke have features of the Ds, one might wonder who were first. Were the Kosuke created from the Ds or the Ds from the Kosuke? Or both at the same time? In my opinion, it had to be one of the last two, but the mere presence of a giant among the Ds already means that they cannot be descendants of a single individual. So it's time to talk about the inherited skills by the Ds, and I'm going to include the Kosuke as part of this group. Let's start with one that is clearly focused on helping to achieve their purpose, the voice of all things. Curiously, it is about hearing creatures related to Joy Boy, such as Seekins or Sunisha, but they can also sense the poneglyphs. It doesn't help them to read them, but it does help them to know where they are. You might be thinking that it seems to be something too exclusive as to be treated as a D ability, but although we don't know if the other Ds have it, we can say that everyone we know who has it belongs to this group: Luffy, Roger, Oden, and Momonosuke. And although they have not shown us any signs of it, we cannot rule out that Dragon, Guard, Blackbird, or Law have it. The one we've been the longest is with Law, but curiously, he doesn't appear on any panel during the scene with Sunisha communicating to get Momonosuke's order. Everything focused on Luffy and Momo, but we have seen him go diagonally to the poneglyph in Kaido's castle, and in this last chapter he mentions that he has stopped hearing Luffy's voice. Although it is true that it could be something that not all the Ds have, it does seem clear that only someone from this group can have it. I am going to point out another ability that we have seen in some characters, and that is that they have wanted to make it clear to us that they have special bodies that work differently than normal. It is a sort of fast physical recovery. Since we have always followed Luffy, his case has become clear to us. It served him in places like Impel Down or in his fight against Katakuri or Cracker, among others. And probably the first thing we thought was that it must be because Luffy is made of rubber. But it turns out that we have also seen that behavior in and recovery of the body on other characters in this group. This would be another bonus for the test they are supposed to go through to get to Love Tale. If we take this ability as at least one, here we would have a reason to think that Kid could be one of them, because in this scene he has surprised, along with Luffy, the Beast Pirates, who must have seen everything. If we add to this that he is one of the few supernova who has not been intimidated into giving up his dream of reaching Love Tale, along with to this, then we could add another point to this theory. And it is very striking that the three who are now leading this battle in Onigashima are from different seas. If we think about the plan that should have been created for the Ds, it made sense to split them all over the seas. This is also indicated by the design of the reverse mountain, which is nothing more than an access to the Grand Line for people from the four main seas. Because keep in mind that although they are making it clear to us that there will only be one Joy Boy and that there can only be one King of the Pirates, the information that Oden brought from Love Tale spoke of the warriors who would take part of the Great War against the world government would arrive at Wano, in plural, and that they would be the ones to defeat Kaido. So, the possibility that it were multiple Ds who reach Love Tale and learn what they are and what their destiny is, as happened with Roger, could be feasible. I know that they have shown us Law and Kid with their own ambitions, and it seems that they would not subordinate to anyone, but we have already been pointed to the King of the Kings, the Conqueror's Haki, that dominates other conquerors, and besides, it doesn't even have to be the case. The only thing we are certain is that Luffy will be the King of the Pirates, but there is nothing about him having to reach Love Tale alone. Law has already made it clear that he wants to know the truth about the Ds, and Kid still wants to be the King of the Pirates, although lately he's also showing signs of having faith in Luffy. Once Luffy is confirmed as Joy Boy and Kid learns about what that means, the possibility might arise that he will accept going to Love Tale with him. And if that were the case, we would have Luffy representing the East Blue, Law the North Blue, and Kid the South Blue. So at this point it seems that we would need to add someone from the West Blue, right? Since I'm talking about this, Nico, Robin and Brook do not count, unless Brook has some surprise ready for us in this regard, but since I do not think so, I'm going to propose two possible candidates. Capone Beach is the only supernova in that sea, and it is the one that Ace mentions in his list of featured characters in each sea, and yes, it could be him, but my favorite option is Shanks. As we have seen, he was raised by the Roger Pirates since he was a baby, so he does not know his origins himself. But Roger and Rayleigh do. And when Roger came back from Love Tale, he secretly said something specifically to Shanks that left him in tears. I know that many things fit here, but among those many, it could be that Roger explained that he is a D. At least the timing, just after learning what they are and how important they would be after 20 years, fits. And his subsequent actions too, forming his pirate gang, stealing the Gomu Gomu no Mi and making sure Luffy ate it, giving him the straw hat. I already talked in one of my first videos about how it couldn't be accidental that he left the fruit in an open chest at Luffy's side. Let's remember that they also learned in Love Tale about Joy Boy, so I leave here the possibility that a strange group with the Straw Hats, Shanks, Trafalgar Law and Kid will be the ones arriving at Love Tale. But certainly there is someone wondering that what about Blackbeard then? Well, Blackbeard is from the Grand Line, the 5th Sea, so he could get there as well. I don't know how Oda will want to pose the confrontation that he has been building for our protagonist for the longest time, and I don't know if it can already happen in Love Tale, or it will be before, or if a defeated Blackbeard will be there with him, or Donovan will go. Any option is valid for this theory though. And I have left for the end a quality of the D that seems very important because they already told us about it even before mentioning the D. In Lockdown, this scene was strangely constructed where Luffy believes himself to be dead. It could be said that this scene is only there to introduce the theme of the D dying with a smile, although it was later used to motivate Bartolomeo or introduce us to Dragon as well. But Smoker is used to draw our attention to this by saying that Roger did it too. And there must be something more, since it impressed Smoker so much that he has been asking for change in the Navy ever since so he can chase Luffy down the Grand Line. So it seems to be something that Oda had in mind from the very beginning. But if we look closely, it turns out that's useless. Unlike the abilities explained above, it doesn't seem to offer any help in the goal that the Ds have. So why is it important? And it is that they have also wanted to show us the smile in the deaths of Ace and Oden. In the case of Oden, even through the audio. An entire panel dedicated to making it clear that he died smiling. A definite reason to put the Kozuki in this group. The only thing we had left was some kind of connection with the main names of this revenge. Love Tale, Joy Boy. And the truth is that I was going to leave this topic like that. Until in this last chapter, Luffy died. And when he dies, two things should happen. That he smiles, and that the Gomu Gomu no Mi reappears in a nearby fruit. But it seems that none of them happen. At least he doesn't die smiling, but smiles afterwards, when his hair starts beating again and he is identified as Joy Boy. Even if we look at his transformation, part of it comes from that smile. Here, we could have a use for that smile in the death of the Ds. It's clear that Luffy will use it for sure. The question would really be, why it didn't work for the others? I see many possibilities that can be applied to answer this, so I am going to focus on two. The one that seems most likely and the one that I would like. We have Luffy resurrected and his hair beats differently. So we could be talking about Joy Boy taking possession of Luffy's body with a smile, or Luffy receiving Joy Boy's powers through that smile. And I put this as the most likely because we have already got highlighted the importance of the Straw Hat, and in this same arc, the importance of the Gomu Gomu no Mi. It's like when Harry Potter takes possession of the 3 Deathly Hallows to finish off Voldemort, to make it clear. But since this is not the one that most of us would like the most, I'm going to propose another theory that also fits and we might like it more. Also, Oda doesn't usually roll for the most likely option. The idea is that all the features we have gone through before for the Ds are actually Joy Boy abilities because these carry a part of Joy Boy with them. I don't think they are clones, but they do have a genetic part. If we continue with the Harry Potter analogies, the Ds would be like Joy Boy's Horcruxes. So the smile that appears is Joy Boy's because everyone has a part of it. In addition, we have seen that it appears before dying, as with Goldie Roger and Luffy in Lockdown, or at the moment or after, as with Oden or Ace. So the Joy Boy part of each of them doesn't behave exactly the same. This would also lead to not everyone hearing the voice of all things and their bodies behaving differently, if that's finally the case. And I think we would like it more because it would mean that Luffy was not born as the chosen one, but rather he is one more individual belonging to the D group. Although you already know that I believe that Dragon had Luffy for the same reason that Roger had Ace, to be the new Joy Boy. With this, we would have that the part of Joy Boy that comes out at the time of the death of the D's has paid off in the case of Luffy. But if we don't want him to be the chosen one, we have to rule out that the Gomu Gomu fruit or the Straw Hat have anything to do with it. And it will be more due to external factors. For example, that Luffy died at the right time. Also, the presence of Sunisha and Akama of Joy Boy could play a role in this. Or those flying lanterns that are launched to the sky from the Flower Capital, which are being shown on each chapter lately and are directly related to death, since they are messages to the dead. Something has to come out of it, and if it is not related to this, it will be related to something else. Although it could simply be the way in which the citizens finally realize that Onigashima is over their heads. But as I already pointed out, the most likely is the first. We'll see shortly. From my side, I hope you liked these theories, and if so, we will probably meet in some other video. See ya!